uplifting her, telling her, keep pushing and different stuff like that. Keep her name alive, stuff like that.
Right.
That makes her feel better. That gives her courage to keep on doing stuff, create new things, so nobody forgets about our sister ever.
Hello, everyone. I am Alexia Tate. I am the best friend of Ms. Danita Tate. She was the sister of Ms. Chiquita Tate.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mr. Dijon Hughes. I currently withhold a bachelor's degree in social work from the Southern University. And then I went on to LSU to get my master's degree in social work as well. And I'm currently pursuing my doctoral degree in biblical psychology from Hope Bible Institute. It's really important for, me with my social work background. Of course, you always hear person and environment. You always hear support. That's like the key elements of the healing process for anybody who've experienced trauma, abuse, physical, sexual, whatever it is. The main thing that you have to heal properly and for the healing process to work is to actually have those supports to be there to, hey, when you get down, push you and say, you can do it. Yeah, when you definitely feel like you gonna just throw in the towel, hey, you can do it. When you grieving, can look at you and say, you know what? All of this stuff that you've done, like with Danita, all of these businesses you created in the memory of your sister, it's important to help you, not only you, but your family. So you being there as her friend, not necessarily having to be there from the beginning of when Kita died, but understanding that even after you met Danita, you were there to kind of reinforce that encouragement, that drive to say, hey, keep going. You're doing what you got to do. Even though I don't know your sister personally, I know how important she was to you and your family.
Definitely.
So I think that's one of the key elements. So support is huge. Not only just, and of course with the grieving process, you might be in denial one day and then you be in acceptance the next day. It's not, what can I say? It's not sequential where you can go, okay, today I'm going to be in denial, tomorrow I'll be in anger. No, you might be in acceptance today and denial tomorrow. It go back and forth, and it don't have a timeline on it.
It doesn't. Not with Danita, definitely it doesn't.
Now, would you say, though, that even going through the grieving process, it could affect her? And if it does affect her, how would she even make sure she's in the right headspace to be there for her friend?
Oh, most definitely. Vicarious trauma. That's basically where somebody who, let's just say, if I'm working with you every day and you are a victim of domestic violence, and I'm working with you every day, and what I do is just work with domestic violence women and men all day, every day. But I've never experienced domestic violence, but I start to feel the weight that you feeling, and I start to take those things home with me, and I start to get depressed, and I start to feel down. Those are the things that's like sort of like a transference almost. So what the best thing, it's always self-care, making sure you're putting in that self-care. Not only just when you were the head of a counselor or a therapist or a social worker, but even as a friend, even as a co-worker, you gotta, when you're listening to other people's problems, you gotta make sure you have self-care, period.
Oh, yes.
Because it'll definitely overtake you if you let it.
Right, because your energy has to be good for them at all times when you're trying to help them get through something. And that's just what I try to do for Danita. A lot of times I'll be like, oh, she's real stressed, or she's really, really down or whatever. And I'll go home and I'll say, this has got to get better for Dee. What can we do? What can I say to her, to keep on encouraging her to keep pushing, this ain't the end of the world, just keep doing what you're doing. And then most times that's basically all, we pray together, we cry together.
Important.
And then she feel better, and she'll be like, you know what, I'm not gonna give up. Things start to fall off for her, like if it doesn't work out right away, or something gets in the way of what she got planned, or it's not going as planned, she start to get discouraged, And I'm like, when God closes one door, he open another
Oh,
one.
yeah,
Stop
that's right.
just
That's
beating
true.
yourself up, Try something different.
Try something new.
Do it by yourself. Don't worry about who's going to support. If you got a little crowd or a big crowd,
That's right.
we'll be there.
That's right.
Just your family, the ones that live in your house, your brand manager, Mr. Mom, that's all we need.
That's right.
That's right.
Or whatever.
That's a good headspace to be
Yeah,
in.
Danita is definitely can be one of those people to be doubtful, but when she's in her gold mode,
She go.
she has ideas to glow, but she wants it all to be about Chiquita. She never wants anybody to forget her at no point because Chiquita was fearless. She could go in a courtroom and baby, when she come out,
she was there.
Yeah, and G will tell you when she would tell me, my sister would take her shoes off her feet and get her people. She's did it before. Right outside of the courtroom, Anything, when you find out the love someone has for someone even after they're gone, most people, they deal with grief and they just not try to talk about it or whatever. Dee talks about the good and the bad.
That's right.
She just doesn't just honor her goodness. She talk about everything, but for the most part, there was no bad with Chiquita, so.
Wow, that's amazing. That's really amazing. So what would you say, question to you, in your expertise when it comes to social work and just understanding social work, who is most affected when it comes to statistically? Is it men or is it women?
Like who
experience domestic violence?
Of course, without a doubt, women are more likely to experience domestic violence than men. Of course, men are victims as well, but women experience it more often. But that's also because a lot of times, men are looked at as to be the strong one. You have to, keep up this image of what a man is supposed to be. So a lot of times it doesn't even get reported. So just from statistically of what's being reported and what's being documented, women, of my knowledge, I think it's like 1 in 2 women are abused, experience domestic violence. And then it's like 1 in 13 men. But again, that's only the ones that are being reported, documented. So, of course, you might look at a woman, let's just put it like this. An example. If I was at a supermarket, right, and you see a man, outside in the parking lot beating on a woman, your first instinct is, why is he hitting her? Or why no one is going over to help her, get him off of her or something like that. But if you see a woman in the parking lot beating a man up or punching on him or something like that, you're just going to be like, oh, what he done, or something like that. Your instinct isn't to, stop hitting him, or I'm calling the police or something like that, because men are looked at as to be the strong ones. You know what I'm saying? But in actuality, everybody, men, women, they experience domestic violence. And most of the times, sad to say, it ends in death. And I remember in school, they would always say, power and control, power and control. That's all domestic violence is. Somebody who wants to have the power over you and control you. That's what it is. Even when I see it, I'm only 23, but just friends and, I have male friends. When I see, they have their significant others doing whatever, I'm like, you need to watch that. Because they trying to tell you where to go, when all that, managing, checking in, which is nothing wrong with checking in with people, of course. But when it goes over into excessiveness, anything like you calling every 2 to 3 minutes, you texting every 2 to 3 minutes, what you doing, where you at, what you doing, where you at, then that kind of should put you on alert. When they get to worrying about who you're talking to, checking your phone over and over, that should be an alert, because they trying to control you. So it all goes back to power and control. So that's basically the gist of it.
Wow. That's fascinating. Thank you for those stats. Now I have a question for you. Outside of the experience with Danita and her family, have you been affected by domestic violence with your family or personally or at all or anything like that?
I've known people who have been, in domestic violent relationships and stuff like that, but never leading to death.
Yeah. And so this was your first experience seeing that it being this big, where it leads to death.
Well, like I said, I saw the clips, the videos, the shows, and everything that happened with Miss Chiquita, and just getting to know the story through Danita.
Yeah.
It's been one of the first for me.
Yeah. What is one way being available has really helped her kind of get out of that? Like, what are some things that kind of helped her get out of that whole notion of her sister not being here anymore?
Working. I don't. If it makes $1, it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
She will work herself like a slave.
Mm-hmm.
It keeps her from being home. It keeps her from having time to think.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thinking for Danita is not one of her best.
Okay.
If she thinks, she gets to thinking about her loved ones, what's not right, what's not. She wanted all to be right, and one of the things that's not right, she's not gonna get her sister back, and she, that's the really the hardest thing for her.
Could imagine.
Yeah. So work keeps Danita going,
Mm-hmm.
doing things, helping people, taking care of her grandkids, stuff like that. That helps her to keep going.
Yeah.
Having good friends in her corner,
Like yourself.
like myself, keeps Danita going.
Mm-hmm.
And me, myself, if I can think of it, or something that I think will make her day, inviting her to my home with my family. My family treats her like she's just,
Family.
pure family. Everybody loves Miss D. You come in contact with her, you hear a story, you just instantly be like, you have a testimony,
Yeah.
She does.
She really
So,
Yeah.
and people just want to support, genuine people.
Yeah.
They got some people out there that are just getting in your business,
Mhm.
basically.
Mm-hmm.
But work and family does that for Danita.
Yeah.
I'm kind of glad you brought that up. Like, I was, they tear-eyed when you
Yeah.
said it, because I know Danita and the Tate family personally.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of like grew up on in Easy Town, 32nd Street, over there with them, because her and my mom are really good friends as well. But when I think back to Kita and Danita was looked at as more of like the mother figure for all of them, and Kita was like the winner, who's the one. When you think about the cycle of poverty, it's usually like you stay in it, you don't get out, you don't have a way out. But you see, what Danita played a part was she made sure that all her siblings were straight.
Yes.
She made sure that they was taken care of.
She stepped into that
right.
mother role.
So she stepped into that mother role, and then that's when Kita had the chance to go out, go to school, succeed, stuff like that. So I guess when I think about thinking about the family in general, it makes me emotional, because I remember the day, that Kita died. You know what I'm saying? I had just seen her 2 weeks prior, because a local rap artist who was well known in the Easy Town area, Missy, had just got killed maybe 2 weeks before, and then I was over at the snack shop. Like, Danita has always been a hustler. Like, she got her, she did what she had to do.
If it made dollars,
Exactly. So she had this snack shop. I mean, made the juiciest burgers you would ever want to eat. So we're at the snack shop. In comes Kita. It's me and Kiwan. That's Danita's daughter. Me and her were best friends. So we was just sitting in the snack shop. And then Kita walked in with her little dog. That was her child. She was like, Didi, I'm hungry. Can you fix me something to eat? She was like, girl, I'm finna fix you something to eat. So then she's like, well, I'm finna go ride over here and ride by Mrs. Club. So she went and rode over there. This was I guess you can call her a ghetto superstar, because she kept herself up so, like, every time you saw, she had on her heels, dressed in her, I think she had to be coming straight from the office, because but she
She ain't
always.
miss a beat.
I ain't miss a beat and was easily can transform quick. She can talk to you professionally, and then she can represent Easy Town 32nd Street like nothing. But
That's right.
when I think back to that day, Q1 didn't come to school that day.
Okay.
So I'm like, that's odd. If she wasn't coming to school, she would have told me. And when I got out of school, that's when my mom kind of broke the news to me. It broke me to my heart, honestly.
Yeah, can imagine.
And like Baton Rouge felt that. When Keita got killed and when it hit the news, Baton Rouge felt it. It wasn't just the Tate family. It wasn't just
I'm getting chills
her
you talking
clients.
about it.
I'm trying to not cry,
I
but
get it.
it was like Baton Rouge felt it. Like she dominated the courtroom.
Yeah.
She everywhere she went, it wasn't like she had the big head to where, oh yeah, I'm the big stuff. It was like, no, I'm helping people.
She let her walk, her work do the talk.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what it was. I'm helping you. You know, I'm pretty sure a lot of people have said it. You know, sometimes she'll do work and wouldn't even charge you.
Wow.
Like that's just, she was all about giving back and, you know, doing stuff for her community to not only make the changes, but see the changes and be like front line of the change. So yeah.
Wow.
You were spot on when you said if it make money, it makes sense, because
Yeah.
that's Danita and her family all day.
Definitely, but Anita has a good heart. She'll do for others, even if it's not making money. Now, she wants to make money at all costs, but if she can help you in any type of way, she's one of those people. You tell her a story, or she just run into you and can see, or her heart will just say, "I need to do something to help that person," and then she drop her ideas off on everybody else. And if you with Danita, you're gonna fall in line and you're gonna help. And that's just who she is, She's always she gives back often, a lot, because where she come from, she's grateful where she is now and where she's gonna go. She's always saying that. Where I'm going is a much bigger place than this, So my struggle I did that for my siblings. She was a child herself, trying to raise children, And for people who don't know the story, and it ain't all of it, but in the book she wrote, it tells it all. So, like I said, that sums Anita up, basically.
Wow. I do have a question for you. I know you guys both talked about children during this experience. Now, when it comes to children experiencing and witnessing domestic violence, do they usually become the abuser or do they usually become the victim? In your expertise?
That's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
It really depends on the child themselves, honestly, because some children you will see, they'll say, my mom was abused, my dad was abused, or something, or I saw my dad abuse my mom, or stepdad abuse mom, and they'll take that and say, you know what, I'm not dealing with abuse. Mm-hmm. At all. If I see this or that, I'm gone. But then you do see the ones who, as a result of seeing it, being in it, and experiencing it, they do turn into abusers. I mean, and it's not something that they immediately think of, but it's like innate. By being around it so much, when you get mad, the first thing you saw somebody do when they got mad was punch somebody in the face, right? Mm-hmm. So then that's what you do. That's learned behavior. Mm-hmm. So you begin to exhibit those behaviors in your own relationships, in front of your own children. So sometimes the children who see or witness domestic violence do become abusers. Then on the other hand, some of them, they see mom or dad, well, mom just took it, dad just took it, so I'm gonna do the same thing. Or he said he loves me, so this is love.
Right.
Or he's making all of the money, so I don't have a job. He didn't want me to work, so if I leave, I won't have any money. I'll be out on the street. So I'm gonna just stay here and take it, and then hopefully, prayerfully, it gets better. Honestly, it won't get better. It won't get better. So the best thing to do is to leave. If you see those signs, leave. If you hear about it, if you just one incident, leave, because it's gonna happen again.
Mm-hmm.
It will happen again. But to answer your question, it really depends on that child.
That makes sense.
It really does.
Okay, you mentioned something about, I'm glad you alluded to it. You mentioned something about when something happens, leave. So what are those red flags? What do those red flags look like? Like, what is one big red flag today you could tell someone, like, if y'all started a relationship, you thought it was cool, and you see this red flag, you might want to consider else?
Aggressiveness.
Okay, and could you elaborate on that a bit?
If somebody is being aggressive, as far as like y'all just having a regular conversation and you try to walk away and they grab your arm,
Mm-hmm.
take that as a sign. Because, I mean, not always that's the case, but most of the times it is.
Mm-hmm.
If they're aggressive, if they're trying to control you and control where you're going, who you're talking to, how you're doing things, if they tell you, oh, don't work, I'm going to take care of you. I mean, it's always good. Every woman's dream, at least, in the movies and stuff, is to be a stay-at-home mom, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you know the difference between somebody who wants to support you and actually have you stay at home and somebody who wants to have control over you and control over the money and stuff like that. So if you see somebody being overly aggressive with you, trying to control you and have the power over you, if they raise their hand at you once, I don't care if they're drunk, high, under the influence, intoxicated, whatever, that's not an excuse. If they did it drunk, they'll do it sober. If they did it high, they'll do it sober. So just be very, 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 very vigilant of those signs of power and control, aggressiveness, and just get out. Even if you don't want to tell anybody, you don't want to tell somebody, there's hotlines, there's so many. I know just in Baton Rouge, they have a lot of different domestic violence organizations that you can call specifically, and they'll help you get out. You can get put in a safe house. You can get put in, they'll send you out of state to protect you. Once you leave, stay gone. Stay gone. Get your restraining order. And I know some people say restraining orders don't work, blah, blah, blah. Get your restraining order. Document everything. Have everything documented in line. Because to say this, just to say it, but if it comes down to mere you'll have your paperwork in order.
Right.
Because, like I said, if they do it once,
You do it again.
they'll do it again.
So as you see, having support from a friend and having the education you need, there are many ways to get through things and to get out of things. You don't have to do this alone, so don't try. Remember, this is Behind the Mask.
So much pain in my soul, it's so hard to let go. But the God that I know never ever let me go. So much pain in my soul, it's so hard to let go. But the God that I know.
We know that many cases of domestic violence end in either fatality or survivor. In those cases, those are the cases that make the difference. Those are the cases that make everything seem possible. Those are the cases that make tomorrow look even more beautiful. And in saying that, I am so blessed and honored to be with a survivor herself, Dr. Jahan Draper, who is a survivor of domestic violence. She will share her story and give some wisdom on what it's like to really be part of domestic violence.
Great day. My name is Dr. Jahan Draper. I have a doctorate in biblical psychology, and I am here to tell my story about how I overcame domestic violence.
How are you doing today?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for being here and being brave enough to tell about your journey. Tell about your survivorship. Tell us how you even got there. So what was the day, the moment that you knew, I'm not going to deal with this abuse anymore?
The day that I decided that I wasn't going to deal with the abuse was in August of 2001, I had come home and the guy who I was dating at the time, I willingly dated him for a year. He was in my apartment, uninvited, but he was there, and I was met with aggression. So that was something that had been going on for maybe like a year, and I was just fed up with it. So that was the actual day that I decided that, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore.
What was it that made you realize that it's either him or me?
What made me realize it was either me or him was, as I just stated, in August of 2001. That was the day that I officially broke it off. But it wasn't until maybe about a year or two later, after he stalked me and he actually burned me with an iron. Wow. Yeah, so I suffered first, second, third degree burns. My neck still have the scars here. But that was the day, and I literally, for me, it was more spiritual because I had made it up in my mind that I was going to kill him. And that was just the day that the Lord delivered me, so to speak. That day, well, that was the beginning of the process. I'm not even going to say that was the actual day, but that was the beginning of the process when I made it up in my mind that, hey, either he's going to kill me or I'm going to kill him. Yeah. And that's where I was with it mentally. Because I had just had enough, and not only was it affecting me, but I noticed that it was beginning to affect my children.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. What was one big red flag that you ignored and wish you didn't?
One big red flag that I noticed? The subtle aggression. I think not with all women, but with some women, they desire the pursuit of a man, and they tend to overlook. It's a certain type of aggression. Most women do want to be pursued, but it's a different type of aggression when it's coming from an abuser. It's more controlling. It's a difference between taking the lead and trying to control somebody. So it was the subtle aggression, things such as, where are you going with that on? Or you don't need to wear that, or why you have on those shorts? It was things like that, trying to control what it is that I wore. And in my mind, I was like, okay, it's not a problem. So I just kind of overlooked it, not knowing that those were characteristics of a person that wants to be in control of you.
Said it was August 2001.
Yes.
So what has life been like after essentially bondage? What has life been like for you?
In a word, liberating. Yeah. It's been very liberating because for a very long time, I did feel like I felt like I was a prisoner in my own house. Like I said, I dated him for a year willingly, but from 2001 to 2005, he literally stalked me. I went through things such as verbal abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse. It only takes one time, but the marks that I have here, when I told you that he burned me with the iron, that was the actual only physical abuse that I went through. But after that happened, it just put me in a place of fear, because I started thinking about the things that he told me previously that he would do me. Yeah. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, is he really going to kill me? Is he really going to kill somebody in my family? Now, he never threatened my children, but he would threaten me as far as other people in my family. Like, yeah, I'm going to do your cousin this, I'm going to do this, that, and the other. So once that happened with the iron, the fear kicked in for me. So like I was saying, I dated him for a year willingly. He stalked me for 4 years. He didn't break up with me, so to speak, until 2005. And that was when I actually told somebody what was going on in my life. Because for years, even though I know people knew, I never opened up my mouth and said, hey, this is what's going on with me.
Why didn't you?
I was ashamed.
Okay.
Honestly, nobody wants to. First of all, nobody gets into a relationship thinking that this person is going to abuse me, because they come across as, hey, I want to spend time with you. But then you realize that in the process with an abuser, not with all men, not with all women, because we know that there are men and women abusers, but I'm speaking about, this particular person, or certain people. They come across like they want to spend all this time with you, but it's really a process of isolation where they're isolating you from everybody and everything. They really want you all to themselves so they can do to you what it is that they want to do to you.
So I see that you're a doctor. Is that something that helped the healing process for you to go into that, deep into that education?
In a way, yes. Actually, even though I have my doctorate in biblical psychology, when I started to go to school, I went for my own personal growth. But it was God, actually, for me, it was God that was there with me throughout the process during the whole time that I was in the midst of what it was that I was going through. So I did a lot of praying, because I grew up in church. I know that everybody's situation is different, but for me, I literally prayed my way out of it.
That's beautiful. Before we wrap it up, I do want to ask one thing of you. What is a bit of wisdom you can give to a young girl, young boy, man, woman that may be facing domestic violence and kind of scared to take that first step to even tell their closest friend or family member? What would you tell them?
I would say recognize the signs, call it out on the very first time that you see it, the subtle isolation, the aggression, when you feel like somebody is trying to take control of you, you have to always remember that you are in control of yourself. Nobody else is here to lord over you. And to never be ashamed to open up your mouths and tell somebody what's going on with you. You're not the person that's you're not the person that's abusing another person, but you're the person that's being abused, and it's nothing for you to be ashamed about. The minute that you open up your mouths, it gives another person, whether it be your parents, your best friend, the police officers. The police officers were a great help to me. Even take the initiative to go downtown and get a restraining order. When you open up your mouths, basically is what I'm saying, is it gives another person the opportunity to intervene on your behalf.
Wow. Thank you for that wisdom. And thank you for your bravery. And thank you for just being a survivor.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. Domestic violence doesn't always have to end in fatality. The survivors make it that much more possible. Yes, domestic violence is a horrible, horrible thing to face and interact with. But there is hope, there is possibility, and there is new life on the other side of that reality. Don't be scared to tell someone. Don't be scared to talk to someone. Don't be scared to have a voice. Remember, this is Behind the Mask.
October 31st, 2006, that was it for me.
That was it for you.
That was it. I'm Chiquita Smith. I'm the executive director of a Bella La Femme Society. And today I will be taking off my mask. I will be telling my story that has never been told before and how I survived 8 years of domestic violence. I was in a very vulnerable state. I had just lost my family matriarch. My grandmother was everything to me. And at the age of 15, life took a horrible turn with her sudden death. Yeah. And she was the thread to the fabric. Like, she held everything together. And here he came along, and, you know, I was in a vulnerable state. I didn't know any better. He was older. And what I thought was comfort and peace during my grief was actually destruction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm so sorry to hear that. Mm-hmm. How was your family support big in making sure that you didn't go back?
A lot of people didn't know the extent of the abuse. They thought it was just a lot of arguing here and there, but then it was times that the physical abuse, he got so cocky that he will attack me in front of anybody. And I knew just then that things were coming to an end, because I know it's going to either be me or him.
Wow, that's really big. It's a big deal to come to.
Yeah, and family, like, I mean, you know, we actually had a fist fight during Thanksgiving dinner, and it was like 25, 30 people. I was so embarrassed, and I could remember my cousin's face with this. She looked at me with this disgusting face, and she was just like, he's not even worth it. He's not even your type. He's not even your caliber of a person that you would date. But when you lose everything, sometimes you'll hold on to nothing, if that makes any sense.
That makes a whole lot of sense.
And that was nothing. Nothing for 8 years. That was a big part of my life. And it impacted my friends, my relationship. I lost jobs because of him. You know, he would come to my job cutting up like everything. And I hid it for as long as I could until the abuse got louder and louder. Okay. And people did reach out, and people did explain to me the seriousness of it. And he told me that one day he'll kill me. And I guess that was always in the back of my mind. And it always put that fight in me to know that, okay, I need to do better.
Right. Mm-hmm. So you said it was October 31st, 2006. So what has life been like after essentially bondage for 8 years? What does that look like?
A rebirth.
Yeah.
What I like to say, resilient AF. And that's literally, literally. And the reason for that is because it made me who the woman I am today. And today I'm the executive director of a Bella La Femme Society, an organization that promotes mental wellness for minority women. And it's a backdoor approach. And the reason why the organization supports minority women with mental wellness is because a lot of us mask. Mm-hmm. And a lot of what we go through is abuse. Yeah. So it's a way of reaching out to women and gaining empowerment through self-defense, free self-defense is that, okay. And gun safety classes and advocacy work around criminal justice reform, because we know about mass incarceration on Black and Brown communities. Yeah. And so it's a little bit of everything, but I pull those women in to make sure those women are good, because I was a mastermind at masking my emotions for that abuse and also making it look normal.
Wow.
And that wasn't okay. I'm strong. I've always been strong, you know, since birth. And those 8 years in the wilderness took a big toll on my life. And so repairing my life and being an executive director and advocating statewide and national audiences and letting people know that you have to understand that we only get one chance at this life. We can continue on to make other decisions and to improve and enhance our lives. But there is no do-over unless it's, you know, in the rebirth or afterbirth or whatever your spiritual beliefs are. But yeah.
So one of the last questions I have for you is, what is wisdom you would give to someone watching this and facing it and then kind of stumbled across this video, like maybe this is my sign? What would you tell them?
Pray, have a plan, make sure that you are safe. Leaving, everybody knows this, if they know the statistics, is the most dangerous time for someone who is being abused to leave, because of the retaliation, because of the egotistical and all of the things that go along with that individual that is causing that abuse.
Yeah.
They want to win. It's power and control. I would definitely say have a plan. Reach out to someone. Reach out to me. Make sure you have a plan. Make sure your family stays safe. When I say a plan, a safety plan, I'm talking down to the details. Make sure that someone has your child. Make sure that you picked up your kids from school if you're leaving. If y'all have kids involved, make sure that your safety is the primary root of that plan. And make sure that the people around you that's going to help you, that you could trust them and that nobody reveals where you are until you feel safe.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you. I appreciate your
Thank
wisdom, your story, and most importantly, your bravery. It takes a lot to, one, go through that and get through it, but to talk about it and to be honest about it, and then create a business to help other women get out of it. We appreciate you so much for being here with us today and doing that.
Thank you.
You're definitely going to change at least one life.
Listen, all it takes is one, and I appreciate you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, as you can see, leaving is tough, but it's possible. And when you leave, you just might see the side of a rainbow you never thought you could see. So we thank you, Miss Chiquita Smith, for sharing your story. For someone out there struggling with this, get help. It's okay. Remember, this is Behind the Mask.
Hi, I'm Danita Tate, the sister of the late attorney Chiquita Tate. I am the owner, CEO of Chiquita's Miracle Works, Chiquita's Blessed Hands, Chiquita's Blessed Scent, also Chiquita's Blessed Transportation.
So I'm curious, how was that day, that moment when you found out that you got the call, and then end up finding out her husband was responsible for it because you guys didn't know at all? How did that whole interaction happen? How was that for you?
Okay, so I was at home sick with the flu that whole week. And this particular morning of the 18th, the 19th, Keita called me and she was like, D, what are you doing? I was like, I don't feel good, Keita. What you want? She was like, okay, I just want to tell you one thing. And I was like, what is it? And she was like, I don't think I could do the married thing anymore. And so she always say that. So I'm like, all right, girl, whatever. I'll call you when I get up, thinking that I was going to hear from her that night because since I have been out sick, I always hear from her at night. She tell me what went on in court or whatever that day. So about 6 o'clock, I got a phone call and they were saying, did you just see Keita on the news? And I was like, no. They was telling me how well she handled the interview or whatever. So I was like, no, I'm going to catch the replay. So I was sick, so I didn't catch the replay. So about 2 o'clock that morning, my phone rang. At the time, I was married. And my husband was like, who calling you this time of morning? So I reached over and got the phone, and it had my brother-in-law name on. I'm like, what do you want this time of morning? So I answered the phone. And he instantly started asking me, is Chiquita at my house? And telling me that he had been to the office helping her put the books back on the bookshelf because she had just got a new bookshelf and had it stained. And he said he was there and say they talked and they decided to work on their marriage or whatever. So he was like, he just left and he called her back to tell her that tickets were on both of the vehicles. And she didn't answer. And so I was like, well, where are you now? And he told me where he was. I say, well, don't you think you should turn around and go see? I said, because she could have fell and hit her head or anything in there and be unconscious if you just left her and she's not answering the office phone or the cell phone. So he was like, you're right, I'm going to go back. So I ain't paying no mind. I went back to sleep. He called back and he was like, have you talked to Chiquita? So that was a red flag. So I got up then. And I was like, no. I was like, let me call her and I'm going to call you right back. because I'm like, why would Keita be way in my house? He was telling me that she said that she was going to stop by after she leave work. And I'm like, way out here? Because we usually meet up at my grandmother's house on the weekends. So I called the phone, no answer. And I waited, no call back. And that's when I knew something was wrong. So about 5 o'clock, he called back and he was like, D, I'm down here by the office and the Hummer is in the parking lot and I'm trying to get in the building. They won't let me in the building. And the Hummer, he just kept saying the Hummer's there. So I felt something. And so I jumped up and I told my husband, I was like, come on, we got to go. And like, I don't know what it was like I felt it and was trying to, or maybe in denial about it. I kept putting pajamas on top of pajamas, just putting, and my husband was like, slow down, look what you're doing or whatever. So we got in the car and I told him, I say, run every red light, the police just gonna have to follow us. So we got on the interstate, we got down on Convention Street to go to 3rd Street. And once we made it to 3rd Street, I just saw the paramedics closing their back doors and they didn't pull off and they didn't put the lights on. So I was like, she dead. So I jumped out the car while my husband was driving. I ran up to the door and the police grabbed me. I was like, my sister, it's my sister. And he was like, the police say, we can't let you go in there. And then I just went out from there. So I started screaming and asking, like, where's my brother-in-law? Where's my brother-in-law? And we couldn't find him nowhere. And then my husband finally said, he in the back of the police car. So at this time, not thinking it's him, I'm thinking that in my mind now, I'm like, who could have done this and why or whatever. So when they got him to the police station, he called me and told me his phone was not connecting to call his parents. So I called them for him or whatever and told them. And then at this time, we still didn't know what was going on. And one of my friends called my phone. She was like, D, where you at? I was like, downtown by Chiquita. She say, oh, it just came on the radio that Chiquita Tate, attorney Chiquita Tate was stabbed 43 times an hour, and that was just it. And I got to hollering at the chief and everything. I'm like, we standing right here, and nobody never told us nothing. Suppose one of us was on our way to work, and they come across the radio, and he was saying that the media must have read one of the officers' lips, you know how they do it, and put the stir out or whatever. So we still didn't know, and they were saying all type of things, and then finally we found out that he was a suspect. I still didn't believe. I was in denial for a long time because he and I were the closest. And he just never appeared. But at one time before this incident, before they was married, she called me and she was like, D, I need y'all to come up here. This trying to put his hands on me. So, of course, we loaded up, went up to Baker. We got there, rung the doorbell. When they came to the door, she came to the door. He was standing behind her. Her hair was all over her head, and both of them had on, house coats, robes or whatever. And then so I'm just looking at her, and then so she started laughing. And so I say, well, what's going on? She say, I just wanted to show him how fast y'all would get here if he put his hands on me. And I was telling her, Keith, don't play like that, whatever. But once we got to court and got to hearing everything, that night was real. And we didn't know, and like in my mind, I'm like, why she didn't say nothing? Like, you would think closest you are with somebody, and then I'm a mama figure to you and sister, and all of 7 of us had a real bond. And I was like, I just can't believe she didn't tell us, like, and we just didn't know. And people tell me because she was an attorney and she felt like if she take care of things for everybody else, everybody look at her like she couldn't, protect herself. I say, and well, me being me, I'm like, well, that's what I'm for. And that hurted me the worst. And he constantly called and said it wasn't true, that they was framing him and this and that, until we got to court and seen that it was him.
It just put you in total devastation.
Yeah, because I was extra hurt then because you did this, you played on me, calling my phone saying that you didn't do it. So I wanted you to feel the same. I wanted his family to feel the same thing for a long time, until I really had to pray, and somebody had to be praying for me too, till it changed. And I say, well, guess what? I don't have a clean record in life. So God forgave me. So who am I not to forgive him? So whatever is gonna happen with him for that, whatever his punishment is, it has to come from God. I can't do it. But don't get me wrong. Like every time they said he had an appeal, my nerves went to 1,000 because I just can't see him out here with me. Like, you know, and she's in the graveyard and like 40 years for stabbing somebody 43 times. That's another part I couldn't get over. Like, you gave him a year for each time he stabbed her. So, yeah.
And I know that probably was a very hard position to come to.
Do you know if I get a paper cut, I think about what she went through in that office? Just a paper cut, I think about what she went through in that office.
I can only imagine. It came really real. Well, thank you for sharing that. Mm-hmm. So as you can see, domestic violence doesn't just affect the victims. They affect the family in tremendous ways as well. But it's good to know that you're not in this alone. That speaking up is important. And if you can't speak up, there are people there that will speak up for you. You don't have to do this alone. Remember, this is Behind the Mask.
And then my daddy died. I never seen the look I seen in my grandma's eyes. She said, son, I'm tired. I said, I'm tired too. Lost my mama dead in the same year. So what I'm supposed to do? It's gonna be hard for me. It's gonna get hard for you. Granddaddy told me, son, I'm gonna live through you. Do all you gotta do, but be all you gotta be. You gotta be the one to take care of the family. My mama told me, son, I'm gonna die. They gave her 6 months, she only lived 5. But God got away from me, so don't you cry. So long as I live, I'm gonna shoot for the sky, yeah, yeah. So much pain in my soul, it's so hard to let go. But the God that I know will never ever let me go.
According to the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, Louisiana is the 5th most dangerous state in the number of domestic violence cases. About 1/3 of Louisiana women, 33.4%, and men at 28.4%, experience physical or sexual violence or stalking in their lifetimes. In 2010, Louisiana ranked 5th in the nation for female homicide. Of the women murdered, 81% were murdered by a partner or an ex-partner. It is time to speak up. It is time to be a voice to the voiceless. It is time to be heard. This is your moment. Remember, this is Behind the Mask.